I've been playing free to play in Star Rail, and I have some tips for you. There are resources you do not want to waste. There are things that will factually make your time easier, and there are some things you want to avoid in this game. So without further ado, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and let's get going. The very first thing I want to tell you right from the beginning is Trailblaze Level will in fact limit you on what content you can do. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you can easily go to my missions and I will show you. In order to continue the main story quest and continue the game, I must have Trailblaze level of 29. What does this mean? This means I have to go and get Trailblaze experience, and as you can see, you get this from mission rewards or Trailblaze power consumption. Now, when you're actually trying to level your Trailblaze level in order to continue the story, there is definitely a mistake you do not want to make right in the beginning. Let's get the obvious one out of the way. In your inventory, you're going to have a bunch of different resources, okay? And one of the resources, you're going to notice throughout your entire inventory, is going to be something called fuel. Now, what does fuel actually do? What fuel actually does is it allows you to consume your fuel, it's these items right here, in order to gain 60 Trailblaze power. So what this Trailblaze power does is it's effectively resin from Genshin Impact and will allow you to do things like the dungeons to farm relics later on in the game. It will allow you to farm the essential materials. It will allow you to farm the weapon and hero experience types of items. And it will be very tempting to use this, because what happens is you get locked out due to your Trailblaze level. And so something you can actually do is you can go here to the guide and you can say, okay, well, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to farm these right here. I'm just going to farm these and get my essential materials, or I'm going to farm the experience ones or the early ones. I'm just going to farm these. I'll teleport there. I'll use my materials, and it generates at a rate of 10 an hour. So you can do about one of these an hour. And yes, you'll get some materials out of them. Mostly, you're like, I just want the Trailblaze experience because it's fast. This is fast, non-annoying, and you don't have to do quests. You just do it. You get the experience, and you get closer to where you need to be. This is a bait. You do not want to use your fuel to do this, and you do not want to be spending and refreshing constantly unless maybe arguably only the 50 Stellar Jade refresh if you are free to play. That one I could see an argument for. After that, you want to save your gems, because the gems are going to be some of the only ways you're going to get pose, and we'll talk about the pose in just a moment. You later on in the game, as you go through equilibrium levels, which effectively levels up the world around you, it will increase the resources you get from this, and that is when you want to use your fuel, as you will get factually more resources later in the game. So the very first thing that I need to tell you right off the beginning, especially if you are free to play, if you're well, it's sort of different advice, but free to play, you absolutely want to save these fuels. Now, let's talk about the warps. Now, I have mentioned this in a prior video. I think Welt's the one to go for, but there are better heroes, arguably, to get. For instance, you can get the healer Bailu. All of them are actually pretty good. Himeko is not too bad. Some people are really excited when they get her. It really depends upon what you're going for. The thing you need to remember is that you only need 50 pose on the beginner banner in order to guarantee it. You will actually get your 50 pose within your first, long day of gameplay. By the time you get through the first bit of the story, you're going to have enough pose to guarantee your 5-star. At that point, if you do not get the 5-star you wanted, it's time to re-roll your account and do it over again if you're trying to min-max your free-to-play. But you don't really have to worry about it too much. After that, there's the banners. You have 20 days. You will get a decent amount of free pose on this as well with the events that are going on. And it's time for you to decide whether or not you want to pull and gamble, essentially. I watched my free-to-play friend Kyra Mobile himself pull this hero today, as well as another 5-star on the same 10 pull. And you can gamble your Jades to try to get your hands on effectively the best single target DPS in the game if you want to do your Jades. Do not spend your Jades on the single banner. It might be tempting, especially because you see in the additional rewards, there's a guaranteed 5-star. That's only at 300, and this will happen over time. That's just going to stay there. This banner isn't going anywhere. The temporary one is probably where you want to focus if you're going to put all of your Jades into it. Now, the other argument is you could save your Jades for the resin refreshes 1 per day, which is what I mentioned prior, but you should be getting enough Jades daily to do that refresh regardless. Another really big mistake you're probably going to make is leveling too many heroes. When I started, I leveled my main hero, and then I started leveling the first hero I pulled, and then the second hero I pulled. And you can see I have bunch of these heroes at 40. This is factually a gigantic waste of experience because, as you can see, I'm getting fairly strapped for these resources. And as free to play, you are going to need these, especially because as you start to pull more and more heroes, as you're raising your level and your cap is getting from 40 to 50 to 60, etc. Every time you get a new hero, it's going to be more expensive to get them caught up to the rest of your team as your team is progressing and getting farther along in the game. For this reason, you want to have a plethora of resources saved so that if you do eventually acquire a new hero down the road, you're not sitting with them on the bench. To give you an example, I have multiple heroes. Hook here has actually multiple of the constellations, the duplicates of them, and Natasha, I believe it is, where is it, has 5 of them, but yet I don't have the resources really to max out and use these heroes. Now, if you get confused in the game and you want to know what to do and what to focus on, then you can always come back here to this operation briefing, which is going to tell you a variety of things all the way back from the very beginning. Go here, get this level 1, complete this story, etc., including telling you to go and work on the primary mission. So this is a good measure if you're like, I don't know what to do right now, I'm lost, there's too much to do. Go back to your operation briefings. Focus on doing these. These will give you good rewards that will help you, including pose, jades, gear, all of the things that you're really going to want, including adventurer experience. Now, right next to it in the handbook is your daily training. This resets at effectively 2 a.m. PST, and these are going to be huge chunks of these adventurer, or I should say trailblazer experience, which is what is going to hard gate you on actually continuing the story. So because of this, you want to do these dailies basically first and as soon as possible and miss none of them. They are crucially important. Now, of course, there's the simulated universe that resets weekly, and there are decent rewards here, but the story does a pretty good job of walking you through and kind of forcing you to do these, so I'm not going to be touching on these too much. I do, however, want to mention one thing, which is that if you go to the simulated universe and you go to index, you can see within the index there are significant rewards from Jade Blessings. The simulated universe does not require you to actually spend energy to do them. And the index, you can access these from the beginning. So what you want to do is go into these and spam the simulated universe and grab all of the ones you haven't grabbed yet. There's a little book icon each time one of these shows up in the simulated universe. You grab the ones you don't have in order to get a number of unlocked blessings continue in order to get more and more and more of these jades. These are individualized. You can see that's for Blessing of Perseverance. This is for this one here, etc. And so you can go through and you can get all of these different blessings, which are going to give you a significant number of jades. Now, the dispatches are small rewards, but you want to make sure you're always doing them. You see how I'm 2 out of 3 right now. What I want to do is go in here and pick another one and send somebody out, because any heroes that are out actually actively doing these are not stopped from being used in your party. It doesn't take them away from you for putting them out on dispatch. So this is just free, flat out free resources that I would recommend doing. Very often while walking around and exploring the maps, you're going to find people that will just give you side missions or just give you free rewards. So do not sleep on talking to the random people around the map. You're going to need these side stories, etc. Because like I was saying, you do actually get locked out of the primary story until you have enough Trailblaze level. So you're going to want to do everything, which brings me by the next major point. Do not skip side missions and companion missions. You're going to get locked out literally anyway, and you will need to go and backtrack. So this is the type of game where from the beginning, 100%ing everything is actually quite a good decision, as opposed to some of the other games you just rush through the primary story, which you kind of want to do to unlock the things, but you're going to get stuck, okay? So there's no reason not to do everything you see around you. That means attack every boss, because there's going to be little extra bosses. Sometimes they're way too hard, and you do actually have to come back when you're high enough level, but kill every boss, collect every chest, talk to every side person, do every side mission, do every companion mission. You're going to need the experience literally anyway. The shops in the game are actually quite good. You can go to the shops and you can purchase 4-star purple gear here fairly early at level 20. I purchased it because I needed gear, but also when you spend it, you get these rewards, additional rewards, which once again have free pulls in it as well as free jades. This also has trace materials, etc. There's just a lot of goodies here. So if you're interested in what this has to offer, including the Shadow of Destruction, which is basically the constellation or the Eladon or whatever the hell they call it, the duplicates for your primary hero, This is basically a necessity to do. Now, if you're free to play and get stuck, something you can actually do in this game is you can have a friends list and you can use support heroes. So I would add people to the friends list, especially any of your friends that might be spending money, because what you can actually do is borrow their heroes. See level 40, level 30, etc. I can go and I can choose to borrow their hero. You can also see the stats of the person and see how strong their hero is before you borrow it. And this will allow you to complete some things you otherwise got stuck on. Now, relics are brutally important. It's where you're going to be getting bonuses and tons of your stats. These relics will unlock just by through the gameplay, and these 2 additional spots will unlock just by going through the main primary story as well. However, you are very limited on the resources to level these up. They do come few and far between. So, and the diminishing returns you get in terms of like you level one piece up and you play the next one, they aren't that great. So I do recommend being very careful with your resources spent on relics. This is one of the most biggest pain points in the game. Speaking of leveling up and pain points, this is the same with your leveling up your weapons, essentially, your light cones or whatever they call them. Now, some of these light cones are better when just superimposed, for instance. So if you look at this, upon battle entry, all allies receive 20 increased speed. I have this on my support character. So I have Bronya. She is a support character, and what I don't need damage on her. So I have not spent any resources in leveling her gear. Factually, it would make her stronger. There is no doubt. And eventually she will, in fact, have pieces that are leveled up. But for the first time, what I actually did was superimpose this, which is just taking the duplicates of this item we have in order to level up. Because the bonus here of receiving 20 increased speed for 1 turn is still good enough even at level 1 as opposed to level 20, right? It isn't going to help me out to really level this thing up. So sometimes temporarily, if you don't have the right weapon for the right character, maybe just put something on for the bonus effect and get the weapon later. Now, the Nameless Honor is effectively a battle pass. It does have a free version, including some posts in it, and you can see some quite important resources like the Tracks of Destiny. So for this reason, it's important to worry about this. Just do your daily missions, the weekly ones, and this period is like a full month to deal with these, so you don't have to worry about these as much. But the weeklies and dailies are definitely going to be important. Once you've progressed through the main story, you will eventually unlock this right here. This is the Forgotten Hall. Now, the Forgotten Hall is how you farm 4-star weapons. So you do the Forgotten Hall, you get some currency as well as some other additional rewards, which are quite good, and then you can eventually farm 4 stars. So this is another way to get this. Echo of War is basically your weekly boss raids, you could call them, like your big head honcho bosses, and these will also drop 4-star as well as some other material. The second one here, once you complete the major boss in the first part of the game, will actually drop the materials that you need in order to level up your traces, which will be required once you have to do your guide that requires you to get 1 character to 8 total traces. So you'll need to make sure you're worrying about these as well. Now, there's a ton more to talk about, and a ton more I could break down, but just for the sake of giving you the simplified, these are what to worry about right at the start and getting this out for the free-to-play people that are just starting. This is a pretty good basic overview. So, love you all. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, please do like and subscribe. A lot of effort, and I'll see you guys on the next one.